The rain hammered against the windshield like bullets from heaven, each drop exploding in a symphony of chaos that matched the turmoil in Detective Sarah Chen's mind. She pressed harder on the accelerator, her knuckles white against the steering wheel as the emergency lights painted the dark highway in alternating shades of red and blue. Unit 47, we need you at mile marker 23 on Highway 9. We've got a situation, crackled the radio through the static. Sarah grabbed the radio with one hand while navigating the treacherous curves of the mountain road. This is Unit 47. What's the nature of the emergency? Possible abduction case. Witnesses reported seeing a woman being forced into a vehicle about 30 minutes ago. The suspect's car broke down near the old Riverside Bridge. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. The Riverside Bridge was notorious in their small town of Millbrook, a place where too many people had disappeared over the years, their cases remaining unsolved in dusty file cabinets. She'd been working those cold cases for months, trying to find connections, patterns, anything that might lead to answers. I'm 5 minutes out, she responded, pushing the patrol car faster through the storm. The rain seemed to intensify as she approached the bridge, as if nature itself was trying to wash away whatever evil had taken place there. Sarah could see the silhouette of an abandoned sedan through the downpour, its hazard lights blinking weakly like a dying heartbeat. She pulled her patrol car to a stop about 50 feet away, following protocol. Her hand instinctively moved to her service weapon as she stepped out into the storm. The rain immediately soaked through her uniform, plastering her hair to her face and making it difficult to see clearly. Police. Anyone there? She called out, her voice barely audible above the roar of the storm. That's when she heard it, a faint whimper coming from somewhere near the broken guardrail that overlooked the churning river below. Sarah drew her flashlight and weapon, moving cautiously toward the sound. The beam of her flashlight cut through the darkness and rain, revealing a scene that would haunt her for the rest of her life. A woman with long blonde hair sat on the muddy ground near the edge of the road, her white blouse torn and stained with what appeared to be blood. She was trembling, whether from cold or shock, Sarah couldn't tell. Kneeling beside her was a man in a plaid shirt, his dark hair matted with rain and blood. He was speaking to her in low, urgent tones, his hands gently trying to comfort her. "Don't move," Sarah shouted, raising her weapon. "Police." The man looked up, his eyes reflecting the beam of her flashlight. There was something in his expression, not guilt or fear, but a desperate kind of determination. "Please," he called back, his voice hoarse. "She needs help. She's hurt." Sarah approached slowly, keeping her weapon trained on the man while trying to assess the situation. As she got closer, she could see that both of them were injured. The woman had a gash on her forehead, and the man's shirt was torn, revealing scratches and bruises on his arms. "Step away from her," Sarah commanded. The man hesitated, then slowly raised his hands and moved back a few feet. "My name is Marcus Reed. I was driving home from work when I saw her stumble out of those trees," he said, nodding toward the dense forest that bordered the road. "She's been hurt. Someone did this to her." Sarah kept her weapon ready while she called for backup and an ambulance on her radio. The static was worse now, probably due to the storm, but she managed to get through. "What's your name?" Sarah asked the woman, who seemed to be in shock. The blonde woman looked up with vacant, haunted eyes. When she spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. "Emma Hartwell." Sarah's blood ran cold. Emma Hartwell had been reported missing 3 days ago from the next town over. She was a college student who had disappeared after leaving her part-time job at a local bookstore. "Emma, I'm Detective Chen. You're safe now. Can you tell me what happened to you?" Emma's eyes darted between Sarah and Marcus, as if she was trying to determine who she could trust. He took me," she whispered. "Kept me in a cabin, in the woods. I managed to escape tonight when he went to get something from his truck." "Who took you, Emma? Can you describe him?" "Tall, dark hair, scar on his left cheek," Emma said, her voice growing stronger. He said I wasn't the first. That there had been others." Sarah felt a chill that had nothing to do with the rain. This matched the profile she'd been developing from the cold cases, women disappearing near remote areas, never to be seen again. She'd theorized that there was a serial predator operating in the region, but she'd never been able to prove it. Marcus spoke up. When I found her, she was running through the trees like something was chasing her. She collapsed right here on the road. I was trying to help her when you arrived. Sarah studied Marcus carefully. He seemed genuinely concerned for Emma's welfare, and his story was consistent with what Emma had told her. But she'd learned not to take anything at face value. Marcus, I need you to stay right where you are until backup arrives, she said. Then, to Emma, you're going to be okay. Help is on the way. The sound of sirens began to echo through the storm, growing louder as they approached. Sarah felt a sense of relief, knowing that she would soon have assistance and that Emma would get the medical attention she needed. But as the other patrol cars and ambulance arrived, their emergency lights creating a kaleidoscope of color against the rain and darkness, Emma suddenly grabbed Sarah's arm. He's still out there, she whispered urgently. The cabin, it's not far from here. There might be others. Other women. Sarah's heart raced. If Emma was right, they had a chance to save other victims and finally catch the predator who had been haunting their community for years. Can you tell me how to get there? Sarah asked. Emma nodded weakly. About a mile into the woods, north of here. There's an old logging road. The cabin is at the end of it. Sarah immediately radioed for additional units and called the sheriff's department to request a search and rescue team. This could be the break they'd been waiting for. As the paramedics began treating Emma and Marcus, Sarah pulled her sergeant aside. We need to move on this information tonight, she said. If there are other victims out there, every minute counts. Sergeant Williams nodded grimly. I'll coordinate with the state police and get us a tactical team. But Sarah, this storm is making everything dangerous. We need to be careful. Within an hour, a team of officers and search and rescue personnel had assembled. Despite the treacherous conditions, they couldn't wait until morning. Lives might hang in the balance. Sarah led the team into the woods, following Emma's directions. The old logging road was barely visible, overgrown with vegetation and turned into a muddy quagmire by the storm. Their flashlights created eerie shadows among the trees as they made their way deeper into the forest. There, Sarah whispered, pointing ahead. Through the rain and darkness, they could see the faint glow of lights from what appeared to be a small cabin. The tactical team moved into position while Sarah and the other detectives prepared to breach the structure. Sarah's heart was pounding as they approached, knowing that they might be about to confront a dangerous individual and possibly discover the fate of other missing women. The cabin was smaller than Sarah had expected, built of rough-hewn logs and sitting in a small clearing. Light flickered from one of the windows, suggesting someone was inside. Using hand signals, the team leader indicated their approach strategy. Sarah would go around to the back while the tactical officers approached from the front. On his signal, they would breach simultaneously. Sarah crept through the muddy undergrowth, her boots squelching with each step. The rain continued to pour down, providing natural cover for their approach but also making everything more difficult. As she reached her position behind the cabin, she could hear voices from inside, male voices having what sounded like an argument. She pressed herself against the rough log wall and tried to make out what they were saying. Should have never brought her here, one voice was saying. It's too late now, replied another. We have to deal with this. The police are going to find this place. That girl got away, and she'll lead them right to us. Sarah's pulse quickened. There were at least 2 men inside, and they were clearly aware that Emma had escaped. This confirmed that they had the right location. She radioed her position and what she'd overheard to the team leader. A few seconds later, she heard the command, "Go. Go. Go." The front door exploded inward as the tactical team breached the cabin. Sarah simultaneously kicked in the back door, her weapon drawn and ready. Police. Nobody move. The scene inside the cabin was worse than Sarah had imagined. 2 men stood in what appeared to be a makeshift living area, their hands raised as officers surrounded them. But it was what she saw in the dim corners of the cabin that made her stomach turn. Chains and restraints hung from the walls. There were photographs scattered on a table, photographs of women, some of whom Sarah recognized from missing person cases. In the back corner, she could see a door that was reinforced with multiple locks. Check that room, Sarah called to one of the officers, nodding toward the locked door. What they found behind that door would provide answers to questions that had plagued the community for years, but it would